Okay, no video in a while, but I figured I wanted to do a political video um, on candidates. For starters, the Democratic field gotten kind of strange. There's still about 20 candidates in the race. There's the, to me, pretty clear-cut neoconservative Democrat that his health just doesn't seem to be there, to put it mildly. Joe Biden. Then there's a sky-high authoritarian who, in theory, he was mentioning a universal basic income, but in reality, it's neither universal nor basic of an income, and it has a value-added tax that'll drive up costs of living for poor people, and therefore, between that and the fact that he's saying that he wants to use aid programs for poor people to help fund it as well, under his system, poor people would be worse off. Middle class would get a little more, and working class, and rich people would, while it wouldn't be the largest percentage of increase of income, they make out the best under this, which is to say upper middle class and rich would get the most out of what he's offering. Well, I mean, granted, the able poor who are in non-Medicaid expansion states, they get a little too, but again, everyone else, no. For the most part, it would make things worse for more than it would actually help. Then you've got another bunch of neoliberals, and then you've got the two straight-on liberals, centrists, that are conscientious for the most part in their centrism, and that is Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard. Neither one of them are fully anti-war, neither Gabbard nor Sanders. Neither one of them are completely clean in terms of using wrong terms. My biggest issue with Sanders is the pushing of Second Cold War. One of my biggest issues with Gabbard is the fact that, again, she's not completely anti-war. She's just quote-unquote, anti-interventionalist war. And that's kind of, that's a difference. So neither one of them are really bright lights. Warren, she has a couple of watered-down policies that are similar to Sanders. But in as much as Sanders is lately being pushed as, well, he's a radical, he's going to do all this change, no. In many ways, what he has is a watered-down version of what the Green Party candidates are doing. He's the rightmost edge of the Green Party at this point, which is to say the part of the Green Party that I won't ballot cast for, is where he is. And then Gabbard, her strongest thing is the election integrity bill, which it'll improve things, not enough, but it'll help. Sanders has one solid, at least decent, Medicare for all bill, so they're single payer. But the first one that he wrote during the same interim period between election cycles was an absolute disaster zone, and they're constantly getting confused with one another, most especially by one of his lead spokespeople, Ro Khanna. So it's a problem. Even though that's kind of his best issue, it's not really his best issue because if you look at the history of the bills that he's written on this, most of them are complete messes. He's written 3. 2 are disaster zones that there's no way I would ever want passed. Third one's okay, but it still has some flaws. So, Green Party is probably where I'm going to be ballot casting. My, at the moment, top choice is Ian Schlachman, and because he supports universal basic income in combination with the federal jobs guarantee, in combination with removing profits from industries like rent and other basic necessities, and he also supports, in terms of universal basic income, for that to be with state and other subsidies and other supplements. So unlike Yang and others, but mainly Andrew Yang, who's pushing it with saying, well, this is going to take care of everything, and no, he's saying this plus all of the current poverty aid programs, plus disability, plus seniors' Social Security monies as well, and retirement, all of it would be additive. And therefore, and he also supports, unlike Yang, who supports a buy-in, in essence, for a public option. With Schlachman, it's single payer at the very least, if not an NHS, National Health Care System. So, because he wants to pull profits from every necessity, and that would therefore include drug companies and medical services. And he's also the first candidate to come out in support of Assange, and that's a big factor for me. And he's also put in one of his first statement proposals, he put out a timeline for within 100 days of pulling back and closing 700 military bases, which is his funding point for universal basic income. And therefore, he's definitely hardline anti-war completely. So that really does appeal to me. And there's none of the harsh extra regulatory measures and that Yang and many others have, to lesser extent than Yang. Yang is the most authoritarian candidate I've ever seen running for office. It's absolutely insane if you read through the entirety of his 100 or so policy platform. That's the thing to me. With Howie Hawkins, who's probably my number 2 in terms of the Green Party candidates, I wish he'd step back and take something like a national party chairmanship. He's done a lot of good for this country. He's done a lot of good for New York. He's done a lot of good for the Green Party. He's a true statesman. But he's not the greatest campaigner. He's not, to my mind, radical enough for the changes that are needed. He's got a bit of the Cold War thing in terms of mentality, and that's kind of a problem. Again, there are many people, especially Republican and Democratic parties, that I'm like, flat out, send him, guillotine them already. This is insane. They're nothing but crooks and evil. Hawkins, I'd say, come here, you, and offer him a hug and say, slow it down. This isn't, you shouldn't be campaigning constantly. Here's a rocking chair, stick to the phones and helping other people, and, in terms of your connections, we need, it's needed to have an elder statesman to help calm nerves when they're frayed, and to help make phone calls when things get screwed up in ballot access. And to me, that's really his best place. Again, I don't wish him ill. I just don't think he belongs as the lead candidate. And if he had become president during Obama's first term instead of Obama, this country would be a lot better off for it. But at this point, I think, unfortunately, it's kind of like too late. This country needs more radical change faster at this point because of the damage that Obama did with things like suspending habeas corpus, strengthening the unconstitutional Department of Homeland Security, making Guantanamo Bay prison in Cuba permanent, and expanding massively in percent and more amount the fossil fuel infrastructure across this country. So we need more radical change, and that's, to me, what the difference between those two candidates are. Dario Hunter, he's somewhere in the middle of those two. I think he's not even, to me, quite, though, in some regards, as radical as Hawkins. And that's kind of why, although I know he cares, I kind of think that he's more similar to Sanders than anything. Same thing with who's even, remember his platform correctly, the other man that's in the race for the Greens, centrists, liberals that care but not quite good enough. The woman that's running, she's only on Facebook in terms of having her platform out there, and I know she's done interviews, but frankly that's not enough. If you don't have a website at this point, it's a problem to me. It really is. It's not that hard to make one. Even if she set it up on WordPress blog, I'd fully accept it, but the fact that she doesn't have one is a serious problem to me. But that's an issue with her for me. I'm also seeing some favoritism shown towards Hawkins, and I think that it really is because of the fact that he is so well connected, and I don't think that it's intentional, and yet because of the schism to some extent between the more radical and the more let's reform parts of the party that to some extent Schlackerman and Hawkins represent, I don't think that it's intentional rigging, and yet it's coming off as real harsh favoritism. And I don't think that it's something that Hawkins is doing intentionally at all. I think that his staff are just kind of going at it and saying, he's our person, and they're kind of slipping the points of the fact that there are others. So it's a problem. It is. And I love the Greens for their wonderful candidates, but the organization is kind of a mess. Shalom.